We're talking Freedom Phone, Part 2. Straight ahead. Welcome back. It's Alex from TECHAERIS.com, and we are going to talk Freedom Phone Part 2. I think some of you may have seen my Freedom Phone video that I did some time back. Some people took exception to the fact that it was not the actual Freedom Phone, but a Google Pixel 2 XL. My intention with that video was to take that Pixel 2 XL and install Lineage OS on it to make a Freedom Phone, to show everyone that you could have a Freedom Phone actually with better specs than what the actual Freedom Phone gives you. So this is the Pixel 2 XL. What happened is I ended up bricking this guy. And as you can see right there, he is stuck on fast boot mode. He will not move from fast boot mode. And I've tried everything. It's been a long time since I've done custom ROM type stuff, and I just finally gave up on it. So I decided to try to find another phone. This phone cost me, I think, $110, $105 on Swappa. And I didn't want to spend much more than that. I wanted to spend a little less than that. I couldn't find any Pixel 2 XLs. But what I ended up finding, finally, after months of looking, was a Pixel 3 XL. And this was $130, a little more than I wanted to pay for this project, but I went ahead and got it anyway. And fingers crossed, I decided, hey, let's try to complete this Freedom Phone project of mine and see where we can get with it. And as I was getting ready to prepare the phone for Lineage OS, I discovered a new operating system called CalyxOS. And I did some research into it, did some digging, and I really think that CalyxOS is probably the better option for people who are looking for privacy but want to kind of get into a de-Googled privacy phone at a slower pace. Because I'll be honest with you, if you get Lineage OS or Graphene OS, it's completely de-Googled. I mean, there's no app store. You can get apps side-loaded or through F-Droid, but it'll be a lot more difficult to use. CalyxOS is an interesting OS, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen here so you guys can follow along with me. I thought this would be a better way. But at any rate, really quick, the phone, the operating system, is pretty much the same. I mean, it's Google. It's an Android operating system, but it's de-Googled with some interesting software enhancements, I guess you could say, and some features. So we're going to jump over to my screen so you can take a look and follow along with me. So, all right, we are back, guys, and let's jump over to CalyxOS. I want to show you a couple things. This is their website here. You can get it right here, download it and whatnot. But it says your phone should be private. Everyone needs a phone. Not everyone wants to be spied on, and reclaim your privacy with CalyxOS. So CalyxOS is an Android mobile operating system that puts privacy and security into the hands of everyday users, plus proactive security recommendations and automatic updates take the guesswork out of keeping your personal data personal. So here's your supported devices. Right now it's really only Pixel phones. They support everything from the Pixel 2 all the way up to the Pixel 6 Pro. And for odd reason, a Xiaomi Mi A2. But anyway, you can get these Pixel phones for cheap on Swappa right now. Everything up to the Pixel 5, I think, is fairly reasonably priced. Just one thing I will say is make sure you get the unlocked version. Don't get a carrier version. Don't get a T-Mobile version or Verizon or AT&T version. Always look for unlocked. That's the Google version. So it's interesting, when you first boot up into CalyxOS, you'll get an option to add some software. You can decline all the software, all the apps that they add in there, or you can pick and choose which ones you want. So let me look through this phone here. Some of them are, like Signal is one, and that's going to help you with privacy as far as text messages and messaging goes. There is a phone dialer on here, but be aware that when you do dial through the phone dialer, it will pop. A little pop-up will come and say, "This this conversation is not encrypted. It's not private. So whenever you use the phone dial on here, your carrier, SIM, whoever you have a SIM through, will be able to track you. But if you use Signal and you call through Signal, there won't be any tracking going on. So Tor browsers pre-installed. All this stuff that I'm going to say is pre-installed is only pre-installed if you choose it to be pre-installed. Tor browser, DuckDuckGo, there's Calyx VPN, and the two, there's a whole bunch of other things that you can opt to go into. There's K9 email and other things like that. But the two really big pieces of software, I think, or apps that you need to download here are the Aurora Store and F-Droid, and those are both alternative app stores. F-Droid you can get apps through F-Droid and they sideload onto your new Google phone. And you can do that with Lineage OS and with Graphene OS. But what I really like about this operating system is that you use what they call the Aurora Store. And with the Aurora Store, it uses a service called MicroG, which I can't really explain MicroG. Let me see if I can find it here. MicroG I haven't done enough research on MicroG to speak, authoritatively with it. But essentially, what MicroG does is it spoofs your phone's ID. So you download the Aurora Store, and then you go into the Aurora Store, and you can find certain apps that you want, and you can download those apps. It's like MeWe. I've got MeWe on here, and I downloaded it, and what happens is the Aurora Store will go out, and they will spoof your phone identifier, so it doesn't know that it's this actual phone. It reaches out to Google, to the Play Store, and it downloads through Aurora. It downloads from the Play Store to Aurora, and then Aurora sends it over to your phone. So you now have the app, a legit app from the Play Store that's been vetted and made sure that it, as best as they can, that isn't full of malware and is not fake. So then you can download it and you can put it on your phone. And that's really, I think, one of the best features of CalyxOS, and I think a lot of people who are looking to get into Google phones, I think that this is a good first step before you jump into Lineage OS or Graphene OS, because those two are really, I think, a little higher in privacy features, but I think that the average user is going to get frustrated with it. This way, you can at least get the apps that you want and that you like and that you're used to, but still have a level of privacy. Now, that being said, you will have to download those apps and use them without logging in, because the minute you log in, that's when you're going to get tracked. Now, you could make, throw away email addresses and fake profiles so that you can get on Twitter if you want, and you would probably not be tracked that way. Use a Proton email address and create a Twitter account or whatever account you want. They'll be tracking that app through the spoofed phone identifier that the Aurora Store created. So I think the Aurora Store is the key to this whole CalyxOS. MicroG, I think, is phenomenal. I really liked that they have that option that you can still get the apps that you like and not have to deal with some of the headaches or the bigger headaches you would have with the Google phone. So here, you get secure networking. There's a Dature firewall, gives you fine-grained control over network access for all your apps. There's a lot of features in CalyxOS and a lot of things I think that are probably too granular for the normal user. But they got the VPNs from Rise Up and the Calyx Institute. let's see, limitless function, micro G. Here we go. Let's go to micro G. There it goes. Here's a good explanation. So how Android usually works. When you use an Android device, the operating system is open source, but many of the apps depend on something called Google Play Services. This software is proprietary and tightly controlled by Google. Over time, Google has moved more and more parts of the open operating system into the closed Play Services, like the Google Camera. So the camera app that comes with CalyxOS is pretty crappy. So I downloaded Google Camera, and I'm able to use it, but one of the things with Google Cameras, when you take a photo, you get a little pop-up that says to view your photo, you have to have the Google Photos app installed. So they're telling you can't view the photo, but that's a lie. You can actually go to the gallery app, and it does save into there, and it saves in a folder called Camera, and it saves all the photos right there. So you're able to use Google Apps, but the key is do not log in to Google. The minute you log into Google, if you download Gmail and you log into Google that way, you'll be tracked. So there's really a dance that you have to do if you want to have the privacy that you want, and there are things you have to give up in order to have that privacy. But let's continue here. Most popular apps do not work with Play Services installed. Do not work without Play Services installed. Google uses Play Services to gather data on how you're using your device, including location and advertising tracking. Google tightly controls which vendors are allowed to install Play Services on new devices. So micro G is an open source replacement for Google Play Services and related software, but it only includes the useful parts. Unlike Play Services, micro G does not have any advertising or location tracking. For example, although micro G is not yet a mature replacement for Play Services, the early results with micro G are impressive, and I test that they are. Most apps are able to run fine with micro G without any need for Play Services. Features of micro G: it reduces battery, memory, and CPU usage. Allows you to opt into specific Google services if you want. So you can download the Google apps and you can opt into the Google services, but it's always optional. And again, if you're looking for privacy and you don't want to be tracked by Google, then you don't want to do any of that. Location: typically an Android device will use Wi-Fi and cell towers data from Google to help determine precise location. micro G does this without using Google and without reporting your location to Google. CalyxOS is configured to use location information from Mozilla. So notifications. Most chat apps depend on Play Services to be alerted when a new message should be delivered to the user. micro G allows your device to use a service from Google without the full Play Services installation. So you can disable. It gives you the option to, when you first load the OS and you're all done with getting your phone to where it needs to be. One of the first options is you can disable it. micro G gives you the option to disable or enable micro G. So you can use micro G if you want, but if you don't want it, then you don't need to have it, and you can it'll basically be a Graphene OS or a Lineage OS type of operating system at that point. You can choose to disable micro G when setting up the device for the first time. This is the 100% de-Googled mode, so that's what I just said. No micro G means de-Googled completely. Nothing from Google, which means it'll be a little harder to get apps. You can get apps through side loading or through F-Droid, but micro G really does help. micro G enabled no Google account. This is the default and recommended option. In this mode, micro G is used to implement some common functionality, such as maps inside some applications, to make many apps work, but in a way that leaks much less information to Google. In some cases, location, privacy respecting services are used in place of Google services, and in other cases, Google services are used semi-anonymously, not tied to a user identity. So micro G sometimes uses the Google services semi-anonymously. So they try not to tie your user identity to your activity. It's not 100% foolproof. I think that this is a good start. micro G is a good start, and I think if you're looking for to dip your feet into that privacy world, I think that CalyxOS is a great start for most people. I think people will be overwhelmed with Graphene and Lineage OS. So it goes on with facts, and I'll link below the CalyxOS website, so you guys can look at it yourselves. What's nice too is the they give you user guides and development guides for everything. And if you get CalyxOS, you can get in here and you'll find all of the devices here and each code name. So mine was the Benito. Oh no, sorry, mine was Crosshatch. So you go to Crosshatch, and I installed it using Linux. I found it to be far easier on Linux than on Windows or Mac OS. I have all three. I have Windows, Mac OS, and Linux machines here. What I really like about CalyxOS is that they walk you through how to install this on your device. So you install it on the Pixel 3 XL. It's right there. It's clear as day. Install on Pixel 3 XL. Gives you all your terminologies, how you need to prepare the device before you install it. So you have to enable developer options, enable USB debugging, enable OEM unlocking. So the cool thing about this is that when you run it through Linux, I didn't check Windows or Mac, but you don't have to unlock the bootloader ahead of time. Sometimes you have to have the bootloader unlocked in order to get this done. This package here, these Linux packages, and you have them for Debian, Ubuntu, and derivatives over here, and Fedora, and Arch, and OpenSUSE. I'm using Element OS for my Linux distribution, so it's a Ubuntu type of distribution, and so I use this here. And so you just open up a terminal and you just follow step by step here what you need to do. For my case, it was a sudo apt update and install Android, the platform tools you need to install. Once you get that done, you download this device flasher for Linux, and it just walks you through every little thing. You have to, here, this is optional to verify the digest. So you go through each terminal command here and just go through and make sure you get the results that you need to get, and then you download the CalyxOS image, and then you verify that, and then you run the device flasher, and you just do that through terminal right here. Gives you the command to put in a terminal, and if your bootloader was not unlocked, it will see that, and it will ask you to do that. It will actually unlock the bootloader, go through that process for you without you having to go through ADB unlocking through fastboot. And then once you unlock the bootloader, then the flasher will finish up the rest of the work. And if you're successful, it'll reboot into CalyxOS, and you have a working phone. So that's basically it for the installation. And I think my main takeaways I want to give you guys for my Freedom Phone experiment are, if you're looking into Graphene OS or Lineage OS, great. If you want to buy a de-Googled phone from Rob Braxman or somebody else that has those operating systems on there, more power to you. I think, though, if you're a novice user, a new user, somebody that's just getting into Android, getting into this type of stuff, and you're coming and you go hard on from a full-on Samsung device with Android or an iPhone into Graphene or into Lineage, you might be discouraged. I think CalyxOS is a good middle ground. I think it's a good start. And my second takeaway for this is that the reason I think the CalyxOS is good and a good option for most is the Aurora store. When you open the Aurora store, it looks, it's not beautiful like the Play Store. It's not really well designed that way. It looks nice enough. It's not ugly at all. It's not, but what I think is key there is that there are, I'll see if I can open one up here and show you. If you open up the Aurora store and let's say we look for Twitter, you'll get the Twitter and it'll show everything there. It'll show the ratings and it shows all that kind of stuff. Let me lower the display brightness there. And what I really like about this is, it gives all that kind of reviews and everything, they have a tab here that you don't see on the Play Store, and it's called Privacy. And here it tells you that Twitter has 4 trackers found in the 9.26.0 release. So you have, it tells you that there are trackers on this thing. And you can actually, if you drill down into that privacy menu, you get another one that says View Report. And if you go to View Report, if I can tap it, there it goes. If you go into View Report, it'll give you a report. And I'll pull that up here. Let's see if I can, I have a few up here already. So here's YouTube. And now this is the same report that you'll see once you click on the Aurora store. Here YouTube has 2 trackers and 33 permissions. So it tells you what those are, the Google AdMob, the Google Firebase Analytics for trackers, and then it shows you all the permissions that app requires. So we have a few others here. Getter. This is a popular social media platform, and it's gotten very popular to go against big tech. And what I found interesting is all of the trackers they have here, all the Facebook stuff, all the Google stuff, for being against big tech. They are pretty much in bed with big tech here. And permissions. And you go on to MeWe. They have 2 trackers and 24 permissions. And we have, let's see, Twitter. Here's Twitter, 4 trackers and 45 permissions. And what I really love is you get these reports and you can see exactly what this app is going to do and what it requires to work on your phone. Facebook, 0 trackers, which I found interesting, but 59 permissions. Parler, 3 trackers, 12 permissions. And Locals, 3 trackers, 34 permissions. And Rumble is using a lot of trackers. I mean, apps flyers, Facebook, a lot of Facebook, Google Ads, Huawei mobile services. Look at, they're using Huawei mobile services for analytics and advertisement and location. And all these permissions that Rumble is asking for. And Odyssey, 17 trackers and 3 permissions. And you can actually get to this website. It's just Exodus, and I'll link that down below so you can actually look for any application name that you want to look in there. You can look for Instagram, and there's Instagram somewhere down here. InstaSaver. There it is. So there's Instagram. So you can look at Instagram if you want. 2 trackers and 37 permissions. So I found that the Aurora store is a valuable tool. If you download an app, you can actually see what trackers and what permissions are required for those. So I don't want to make this video too long. What I've come to the conclusion, my conclusion is CalyxOS. If you're looking for a de-Googled for a privacy first phone, don't fool around with that Freedom phone. I think most people, given some time to sit down and study, and just read about CalyxOS, I think that most people should be able to install this. It's not hard, and you can buy a Google Pixel 3, a Google Pixel 4 for less than $200, and it's going to save you a ton of money. That Freedom phone's $500, and it's a cheap Chinese phone that's I mean, this is a Chinese phone too. Let's just face it, all phones are Chinese phones. All the components are built over there. So I think though that CalyxOS is the best bet for most people to get started on a de-Google phone. I've been using it for a few days now. I have my test sim that I use for testing phones in here, and it works flawlessly. Signal works great. The phone dialer works great. There is no default messaging app on here. They use Signal for default messaging. You can download a messaging app down here if you want, but be aware when you look for a messaging app to look at the permissions that and trackers that it has on there. So yeah, that's it. That's CalyxOS. That is the Freedom phone. This is my Freedom phone anyway, even though I'm not. I'm still using an iPhone, which I'm recording this on. I know there's a lot of readers out there that want to get into a privacy-first phone. I don't recommend the Freedom Phone. I think you should stay away from it. I think you need to find a de-Googled phone, either one that's already been installed with Lineage or Graphene, but I really think the CalyxOS is the better bet for the average user. So that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. Please give us a thumbs up, and appreciate you guys highly, and thanks for supporting independent tech news and reviews, and we'll talk to you guys on the other side.